Hi, hello. My name is Zsuzsanna Budapest. Actually, it's Zsuzsanna Budapest. Means storyteller, and Budapest because I named myself after my birth capital of Hungary, where I saw the light first. And it's important because as a writer, I needed a pen name, and so that's what I came up with. It's quite a bit more about my name. It has lots of stuff in it, but I'm just introducing myself. The reason that I am a feminist witch is because I come from a mixed family. My mother was a witch, and my father was an atheist. And together, I have always been aware of how politics impacts human beings' lives. And especially when I was young, it impacted my life because we had a Hungarian Revolution in 1956 that I was part of. A leaflet came to my high school door. I was exiting, and a young man gave me a leaflet, which I never seen before. A leaflet is somewhat of a miracle in a dictatorship. Nobody dares to do that. But it claimed that they had permission to gather, and there'd be poets reciting poetry, and we'd be all happy there, and we should come. So being 16 years old, my entire class decided to come. We didn't have much of a life, and this sounded like an experience. Unfortunately, it was more than what we bargained for. 4 of my classmates were killed by the Secret Service, actually. We didn't even know where those bullets came. It was just aimed at us, and they took out 4 of my classmates. I escaped that part of the gathering because I had a date with my mom. Mom was divorced, and I lived with my father at this time. And we had dates. And it was a dinner date. I had to make it there by 8, and I started dropping back, but I was there for most part. And it was electrifying. It is something of a great feeling that your tribe is doing what tribes do. Churn it up with enthusiasm and demand to be recognized in our own country. Our parliament, our Hungarian parliament, didn't have a Hungarian flag on it. And it had that 5-pointed star, the red star, which is the Soviets' insignia. So there was chanting going on to put out the light from the 5-pointed star. And after much chanting, they actually did. The next, of course, we demanded that they unfurl the Hungarian flag on our own parliament, which they did. And then after that, I wasn't there anymore, but of course I knew the entire story. What I understood from all of this is that you have to mind who runs your country, because they either kill you or protect you and allow you peace in which you can thrive. But if you are not given peace and you have to watch your back all the time for just the simple reason that you are of your country, being Hungarian was a sin in their eyes. So, of course, the revolution was totally put out by Russian tanks. And when that happened, I decided I have to take my fate in my own hands and ask the goddess to lead me out of there, because I just couldn't see myself being sweet 16 among corpses and the ruined buildings that they shot to pieces from their tanks. They used more tanks there against students and young workers. It was a young people revolution than they used in WW2. So you can imagine. Anyway, I named myself Budapest, and I have behaved myself so that I don't bring any dishonor on that name. I hope I didn't. I don't think so. And I got an assignment from the goddess about it, because Hungarians were not Christians. We were Christianized by the sword. we were forced to take on this Roman, the Pope ran Europe. If the Pope didn't give you a crown, you were not a state. So in order to survive in Europe, our first king had to have a crown from the Pope. And since he had done that, he immediately offered our country up to the glad woman, the Boldogasszony, who is our ancient goddess. And she's not your sad-eyed woman with a dead man in her lap. She is beautiful and plentiful and dressed in fine robes and stars, and behind her the sun. She's life herself. And that's the kind of goddess that my mother sculpted and created altars to. And we had our audience for her work was mostly peasants who came to buy it, and they put it in their good room and they prayed to the ancient goddess of Hungarians. We even called her the Hungarians' God. The Hungarians' God was not Jesus Christ. He was Jewish. There are no white people, by the way, in the Bible. Everybody who is so gung-ho being Christians, who hate women and hate anybody who is diversing from their boring model, forget that, no, that's not who white people were. We were all pagans. We all worshipped life. We had a joyous religion that created social life for us and supported us in growing things and achieving things and creating not only crops but art and build beautiful buildings, dances. And that these dances, the lonely hearts found each other. So a good religion should have the center of it must be common sense. And it should serve the people on all walks of life. And that we had. And so I decided to bring it back. And I saw that feminism, as I first encountered it, didn't have anything to say about deities. In fact, women were very afraid of religions because it hurt us so bad. You remember how white people burnt white people at the stake for 600 years? Yep, that's what white people do to each other when they are not having any other enemy. They turn on each other. We are not a nice group of people, really, naturally. We need some civilizing forces and imprints like Mother Nature, like cultural inputs. So, yes, that's sort of about me, and you know where my motivations came from. And now we are here having a pandemic, which made it impossible for us to do our normal goddess gathering in the Redwoods in California, the only place where we are possible, really, to actually have the appropriate environment for our rituals, which are beautiful, and you will see in our presentation. So it took me a long time to find this camp. It wasn't easy. A friend of mine who is a therapist and a psychologist, she had a client who knew about this camp, and we followed that suggestion that we should really look at this place. We've been looking 2 years already. It was in a time when I was desperate. Every kind of feminist movement had already large gatherings, and my kitty cat is talking to me. Kitty, not now, sweetie. That may happen again. She's very pushy. Where was I? Yes, the camp. YMCA has a lot of camps, and I have gone to every one of them. And nowhere would they welcome witches, goddess anything, or a balefire, a sacred fire. I understood the fire part. It's California. We are very flammable here. We really have to be careful. "Oh, Kitty, come on now. Kitty Bosh, go outside." She says, "We have a heat wave here." Anyway, here, the Native Americans who ran this particular camp told me the story how John Gotch, who owned that land, had a wife, and she didn't like the fact that they had a lumber business. She didn't like the trees being cut down. And when he died, she donated her land to the children, and it was eventually ended up in the possession of the YMCA. And they were not doing too good a business. It's hard to keep up with a big land like that. And when we came along, we met, however, Native American people who ran it, and they welcomed us. And they immediately knew that we are not worshiping the devil and we are not weird people. We are actually into nature and balance and women. And as women, we celebrate ourselves, and we don't want any male to come and be part of it. That's the whole point. That's what makes it women's mysteries. It was always respected in antiquity. Women's mysteries was never violated. They left the women alone. Why? Because women are the human species. We make everybody. We have to pray well. If we pray to the goddess and we're happy and we have at least 8 times a festival that we enjoy and that supports us physically or psychologically or spiritually, our babies are happier. Everybody is happy when women are happy. And this kind of mentality is not a Christian idea, which is too bad for them. So we found this place, and I started it with just the people I knew. You, Tin, you were right there at the beginning. I'm not even sure the first one or the second one, but you came.
I came in 2000. That's when I was pregnant with my son.
Yeah. So 2000, and we blessed you, and you had an easy birth.
Yes.
And you have now a son who's in college.
Yeah.
Blessed be, time flies. So we look back on 26 years of spiritual activity at this beautiful, blessed land. And we're so grateful because here the goddess movement could grow up. We could set standards. We could examine how things work and how our blessings have effect. We could understand our own power better. We go home empowered spiritually, feeling good about ourselves. So everyone I ever knew who was either in psychology or even in religions, they always said this is the best religion ever around. And I, of course, did not make it up. I enriched it and brought it back. But much as it would please me to say, oh, I invented women's mysteries. No, it's an ancient heritage that was taken away from women, was made to forget it. There was no practice of it. If you put 600 years into erasing a cultural event, you may succeed. But then a clever little daughter of a witch and an atheist may come along and smell your bad deeds and say things like, oh no, you won't. I want it all back. This is the time when women are rising, women are waking up, tribes are needed more than ever, and now is the time to try it again. Let's see how much we remember. And what we don't remember, we will intuit and make up, imagine. And those are really the cornerstones of women's creativity: imagination, inheritance of spiritual treasures, and the brave heart to say, this must happen again. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Good, it's close to what I